Flowers.
Welcome to Life More Simple. Thank you for joining me today. And today I want to share with you one of my favorite spring activities, and it is making maple syrup. I enjoy making maple syrup because it's one way to just get outside in the springtime weather and enjoy it, and you have something to show for it at the end. Now, I'm not going to claim that this is the most simple way to make maple syrup, because the most simple way is probably just to go buy it. But I'm just going to show you how I do it, and so come along and see what I do. So I'm in my backyard with my maple trees. I'm going to show you how I prepare my taps and tap my trees. I use gallon-sized Ziploc bags. That might seem a little odd, but I'll show you how I do it, and it actually does work, and it's very cheap. So what you need to get started is some of these taps, and you can get these online, or if you can find a store that carries them. I don't know if hardware stores might carry them or not, but you need those taps. And then you need something to catch your sap in, and I'm going to be using these gallon-sized Ziploc bags. They're not actually Ziploc brand, they're Aldi brand, and some scissors. And this is Gorilla Tape, and it's fiber reinforced, and I find that this is really sticks very well to my bag. So let me show you what I do. So I take my Gorilla Tape and I cut about a 2-inch square-ish. Then I'll place my Gorilla Tape in the corner of my Ziploc bag, just like that. Just make sure it adheres very well to the bag. Next, I will take my scissors and simply cut a small slit in the tape. Once I have the slit in the tape, then I will put my tap through the bag from the inside to the outside. As you can see, the large part of the tap is inside the bag where the sap will drip into the bag. And I can close the bag up. So the advantage of catching your sap in Ziploc bags is that it helps prevent the bugs from getting in. Ants and flies and other springtime insects often like to find the sap because it has sugar content, and they will often fall in your sap if you have an open container or a container with big holes in it. So I found that this keeps my sap nice and clean, and for the most part, I mean, a few bugs might get in here and there. The reason I put the tape there is to reinforce where a lot of weight is going to be hanging on that bag, because of as the sap fills the bag becomes heavier and would stretch that area out around the tap. But with the tape there, it really gives it a lot of strength and doesn't fall off the tree. Okay, I'm going to tap my maple tree now. So I have my drill and a bit that correlates with the size of maple tap I'm going to be using. So I'm just going to pick a place maybe 2 or 3 feet from the ground and do the hole at a slight upward angle. Now it's time to put the bag on the tree. So I'm going to push my tap into the hole, and I'm going to push it good and tight. You want to get it in there good and tight so that as the bag fills up with sap, it doesn't pull the tap out of the tree. The sap is flowing really well today. It's well above freezing and the sun is shining. Perfect conditions for sap flowing. All right, look how much sap I've already gotten from this tree. So to collect the sap, I'm using a bucket I got from the local grocery store. They gave it to me for $1. And I'm just gonna open the end of my bag and pour it right in. And now it can keep filling up. Just close it up so it doesn't leak out. And keep the bugs out too. So we've been collecting sap for a couple days, and now it's time to boil the sap. It takes a lot of boiling to get a little bit of syrup. So I've collected probably between 20 and 30 gallons of sap, and now we're boiling it down. We just have cinder blocks on either side, and we build our fire in between. I have a grate and some pans. I like pans that are deep enough to hold a lot of sap, but also have a lot of surface area to allow for a lot of evaporation. When I boil, I like to have two pans. My back pan is where I keep it boiling as much as possible to get as much evaporation, and the front pan I will add my cold sap to. So as the cold sap comes up to temperature, I will add it to the back pan. So the back pan is going to get more and more concentrated as I go along, closer to what my syrup will be. It's so wonderful to know that God is faithful, and that even though so many things in this world change, He is always the same. And I think springtime always reminds me of that. Even though our seasons change year after year, He's faithful to keep His promise that springtime will come again. Genesis 8:22 says, "While the earth remaineth, seedtime and harvest, and cold and heat, and summer and winter, and day and night shall not cease." And it's just wonderful to be reminded of that. And I think sometimes it's easy to see the change of season in springtime as the snow melts away after a long time of snow and cold and brown and dreary, and the sun peeps out and the snow melts and the birds come back, and it's such a pleasant, wonderful time of year. Now there are days that are still wet and dreary, but it's just a reminder that God is faithful to us, and He has created the seasons, and they will continue on as long as this earth is here. So I boil the sap outside over an open fire most of the way until it's almost syrup. Then I bring it into my kitchen, and I use my stovetop to get rid of any more of the water until it's the right sugar content. I use a very low heat and go slowly so that you don't go too far or burn your syrup. When the syrup is getting close to being finished, it's supposed to be at 66 brix sugar content, or I think it's basically 66%. So I use a refractometer. You may not have one of these. They're not necessarily a household item to have around, but or you can just boil it until it seems like it's the right consistency. If you don't have the right sugar content, I think you will have to refrigerate it. Otherwise, you cannot keep it at room temperature, or else it'll mold more easily and go bad. So higher sugar content, I think, will preserve your syrup better. I'm going to test this and see where it's at. It looks like it's right about 64, maybe a little above. So I think I'm going to call it done, because I feel like even sometimes when it's at this stage, it even maybe continues to evaporate because it's hot as I filter it. Now, I didn't mention that I do like to filter it when I bring it in from off the fire, because just the nature of boiling something over the fire, there gets to be ash and stuff inside it, and so filtering it. I like to filter it even right before I put it in my jars. I don't think I've quite perfected the art of not getting that gritty sand stuff in the bottom. I'm not sure exactly what causes that, but I often get it in my finished product, so I like to filter that out. I'm going to filter it one more time as I put it into my jars. I'm using this frame and these filters. I think they're just like fryer oil filters, and so they're pretty easy to use and they do a good job. Since I'm putting the maple syrup in the jars while it's very hot, I can put a canning lid on and then seal it down with a ring, and it's kind of like canning it. And if it's hot enough, as I let it cool, sometimes it seals itself up. There you go. It's pretty warm. So here's some of my finished product. As you can see, making your own maple syrup is not necessarily the simplest, easiest thing. It's a lot of work. Why is it so expensive? But I've enjoyed it, and it's always a good feeling to have something that you've worked hard for in a sweet end product. So I hope you all have enjoyed the video, and thanks for joining me. And until next time, keep life simple.